Hello, YouTube. The active development of high-tech and the widespread use of airspace photographs have made it possible to detect large-scale objects, which currently cause numerous discussions about their origin. A special place among them is occupied by the so-called geoglyphs. Geoglyph, translated from Greek, geo means earth, glyph means carving, a geometric or figured pattern applied to the ground, created mainly by removing the top layer of soil, measuring more than 4 meters. There are other manufacturing methods, such as sprinkling soil with crushed stone or planting trees that form the necessary shape. But this type of work is most often used for the construction of modern geoglyphs. The most famous and large-scale group of figures, shapes, including drawings of the Nazca Plateau in South America. It is worth noting that this continent is the leader in the number of open geoglyphs. So in the immediate vicinity of Nazca and the Palpa Plateau, there is a group of poorly studied geoglyphs, as well as others, the long-discovered candelabrum of the Paracas Peninsula, a giant from the Atacama Desert, and more recently, more or less, found geoglyphs on the border of Brazil and Bolivia. In the steppes of Kazakhstan, a complex of geometric patterns reaches the size of several football fields. Their age can be about 8,000 years. Please see my videos about Central Asia to find out more about the Kazakhstan complex, as well as have a video, Russian information or Russian research into the Nazca lines. But this video today examines the group of structures that can also be classified as geoglyphs. The monuments identified are in the Russian maritime province, of which I told you so much in my previous videos. It's also known as Primorsky Krai, or Primorye for short, near the village of Terekhovka in the Razdolnaya River Valley. They're being considered in order to draw attention to the problem of their scientific research and, of course, acquire the status of a cultural monument requiring preservation. I hope that happens. Currently, it is safe to say that there are 6 geometric shapes of similar type located on the territory of 40 square kilometers at different distances from each other on both banks of the Razdolnaya River. Some of them are partially damaged. The age of the shapes of the figures and the exact date of discovery are unknown. Information about them is minimal. Presumably, the eastern part of the geoglyphs was discovered in connection with the construction of the new Vladivostok-Ussurisk highway. 3 figures are located on the left, western, 3 others on the right, eastern bank of the Razdolnaya River basin. Let's look at these objects in more detail. So there are only 6 figures, 6 shapes. Like many other geoglyphs on our planet, the drawings in Primorye were created by removing the topsoil. If you look from above, you can see that all of them are located near the banks of the Razdolnaya River in the area of about 40 square kilometers, while being at a great distance from each other. In addition, the figures are located at different heights. From all this, the key researcher, and I'll tell you who it is later, concludes that the reason for the creation of these geoglyphs, and they are clearly man-made, not of natural origin, could have a sacred ritual character. Svetlana Shapovalova, a graduate student at the Far Eastern Federal University, made a detailed analysis of the abstract drawings, similar in type, but not far from which the long-extinct Baranovsky volcano is located. I think this is important. According to Svetlana, for those who created them, neither the size of the figures, nor their location on the ground, nor the height above sea level played a role, but only the shape was important. It is unlikely that they served as a reference point for military operations, because people were talking about Russo-Japanese War of 1904. Perhaps these were some ancient pagan symbols. For the convenience of studying each of the discovered geoglyphs, Svetlana assigned her own number. Interestingly, the first three figures were placed by a known ancient artist on the left bank of the river and three more on the right. Like I mentioned, the first, second, and third geoglyphs have a similar pattern and size. The drawings were made using the same excavation technique, but not all of the figures are equally well preserved. The researcher also notes that the upper pattern part of each of these ancient figures is located higher than the cone. Not far from the geometric shapes is the ancient extinct Volcano Baranovsky, next to which there is a ruined cave called, in English, Bear Cheeks, bear meaning animal. This object was described by the researcher of the maritime province Przewalski, and I talked about his very strange research and expeditions in my video, I think a few years ago. I suggest you look at it if you're interested in that part of the world. Anyway, here's what he said. The narrow valley accompanying the middle course of this river, about 15 versts, the Russian measurement of distance, below the village of Nikolskaya, suddenly shrinks into sheer cliffs that stretch for about a mile and are known as Bear Cheeks. This name is given to them, as they say, because bears often arrange winter lairs in the crevices of these rocks. The man-made nature of the Terekhovka geoglyphs is indicated primarily by the fact that at the bottom of their outlines, in fact, long ditches, well, the bottom is empty, although the side of these ditches, as well as the space inside and between them are covered with trees. But in these parts, nature is rich. Shrubs and trees grow very quickly, and in theory, all these lines should have been covered with greenery for a long time. Shapovalova's research suggests that at the bottom of these ditches could have been lined with stone or covered with something like a park embankment. A high voltage main line runs through the central part of one of the giant images, and the space cleared of forest trees did not damage the geoglyph trenches. They can be seen both directly at close range and from above, from a satellite. Svetlana is sure that these 6 geoglyphs are not the only ones in the Primorye. It is difficult to simply detect such figures due to the fact that in these parts the space is abundantly covered with vegetation, and even these 6 figures were found by chance. There is not a single high point in this territory from which an ordinary person could see them. You only could see them from above. The researcher believes that the Terekhovka geoglyphs need to be seriously studied and they need to be given the status of a cultural monument. The primary task is to study and attract public attention because today geoglyphs are not under state protection and are being destroyed, Svetlana noted in her work. She noted with regret that the mysterious drawings are unwittingly damaged by local residents. In some places, giant images are fairly pitted by the wheels of machinery. Nature also plays a role over time. The figures are covered with water, they are hidden by the grass and trees growing around. According to the young researcher, those geoglyphs need to be taken under protection as soon as possible. Otherwise, the mysterious objects of our history will disappear forever from the face of the earth. If you ever are in that area or want to know a little bit more, the village of Terekhovka in the maritime province, it is located on the right bank of the Razdolna River opposite the village. Baranovsky, which is about 50 kilometers from its confluence with the Amur Bay. The highway passes there, and also the Baranovsky-Hassan railway passed through the village. The distance by road to Vladivostok is about 77 kilometers. To the district center of the village of Volno-Nadezhdinskaya is about 40 kilometers. That Baranovsky volcano, it's an extinct volcano in the Primorye. It is located about 100 kilometers north of the city of Vladivostok. The Razdolna River, Suifun in Chinese, flows to the mouth of the volcano. The volcano is several million years old. The crater has almost collapsed. The best preserved part of the crater is the western one, which offers a beautiful view of the Razdolna River basin. The highest part of the volcano is the western part of the crater. The height is about 160 meters. According to the section of the crater, which is clearly visible from the inside of the vent, you can see the rocks of which it consists of. Based on my decades of research of the Russian paranormal phenomena in general, and in the Maritime province in particular, I believe there is a connection between the geoglyphs and the presence of the extinct volcano, and that there are maybe more interesting objects that can be discovered in the area if there was officially sanctioned research and excavations, especially closer to the river. But let's leave it at that, because I cannot travel there and have no way to prove anything. I had acquaintances, researchers of the paranormal, brave souls in Vladivostok 30 plus years ago, and my articles, my research, were published in the local newspapers, but those days are gone. So if you like my research, please support me through the links you will find in the description to this channel, and I'll tell you more interesting stories, as I have before, about the Russian Far East, other parts of the Russian Federation, Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan, other parts of Central Asia, Eurasia in general, and a few other parts of the world where I did field research. I hope you find them interesting, and thank you for your attention to my work. Please like my videos, please tell others.